2. The old apartment was in a neighborhood where none of the houses had lawns and the backyards were either concrete or dirt. There were a lot of kids around, and you could get into a ball game or a conversation or trade comics just by going outside. It didn't seem to matter to anyone that I was portly or wrinkled. The best thing about our old apartment was that my grandparents had an apartment in the same building. I used to spend a lot of time at their place. My grandmother likes everyone to call her Old One, and she's always saying things like, "Listen well, old one, listen well, young one," and "Mark well, my child." She believes that everyone ought to eat only raw food, except meat, which she believes no one should eat at all. She spends all her time grinding up nuts and wheat berries and soybean and mashing them together with honey and raisins and stuff. It tastes better than it sounds. My grandfather likes to be called grandfather. He has a parrot named Lucky, and he's always fooling with him, spraying him for mites, or bathing his feet, or just walking around with Lucky on his shoulder. Both my grandparents basically eat what Lucky eats. There are some other people living in my grandparents' apartment. Madame Zelan, Zelanov, Zela, Zelatonova. Zelatonova is a friend of my grandmother's. She's an anthropologist and comes from Europe. She is studying the people of the Himalayas, especially their cooking. When my grandmother isn't dishing out her ground-up stuff, Madame Zelatonova is making things like roast barley, floating in strong tea and melted butter and scallions. This stuff tastes worse than it sounds. Some people come and go. Great Uncle Boris lives there in the wintertime. Uncle Boris is a movie nut. He takes 8mm movies of clouds and squirrels in the park. Once he took a bus all over the country and took pictures of the sky in every state except in the Union, except for Alaska and Hawaii. I used to hang out in my grandparents' apartment as often as I could. The thing I liked about it was that everyone there didn't treat me in any special way. They were all sort of interested in various things, and they would talk to me about them in just the same way they would talk to anybody. Not being able to drop in at my grandparents' apartment was probably the worst thing about moving to the new house. I was thinking about this when I heard the electric radio-controlled garage door open. This was a special gadget of my father's. He had it installed the first week we had the new house. There was a button on the dashboard of his car. When he got within 2 blocks of the house, he'd push the button, and the little radio transmitter under the hood would start an electric motor in the garage that would open the door. When he got inside, he'd push the button again, and the door would close. Sometimes the door would open and close by itself, as trucks with two-way radios went by. Melvin struggled to his feet and stumbled off to say hello to my father, yawning. My father always got a bigger welcome than I did. I heard the back door slam twice, and Melvin dragging himself back into my room, still yawning, and settled down to sleep again. I knew what had happened. My father had come out of the garage, stepped through the back door, kissed my mother, patted Melvin on the head, taken off his coat, and hung it on the hook, and first taking his apron off the hook. The apron had "What's Cooking" printed on the front, and a picture of a guy in a chef's hat standing in front of a barbecue with a big cloud of smoke coming up from it. Next, my father had gone outside, that was the second slam, and started building a fire in the portable barbecue. This had been going on all summer. He would pour some charcoal out of a bag, spray about a gallon of starter fluid over it, and throw on a match. Then he would stand around for maybe an hour, watching to see that the fire didn't go out, and blowing on it once in a while to keep it hot. Meanwhile, my mother would be in the kitchen, getting the meat ready, steaks or hamburger or chicken, at the same time. Melvin's liver would be cooling on the counter. When the fire was ready, my father would holler to my mother, and my mother would holler to Melvin and me. While we were making our way to the table, she would run outside and give my father the hamburgers or whatever, and then she would run inside and put Melvin's dish of cool cooked liver down. Then she would run outside again and get the first of the hamburgers off the fire from my father. Then she would run in and give one to me. Then my father would come in, wearing his apron and a big long fork in one hand and holding a platter with the rest of the hamburgers in the other, and we would all eat supper. Besides the hamburger or steak, we would have salad. My parents had been to a restaurant where they served their special salad with chopped hard-boiled egg on it, and anchovies, and all sorts of stuff. The waiter makes the salad at the table. He has these oversized pepper mills and salt shakers made of wood, and he does a whole routine with a salad. Anyway, my father had gotten the same kind of wooden salt and pepper shakers and the same kind of big stainless steel salad bowl, and he would go through the whole routine every night. Before we moved into the new house, I'd always liked hamburgers and things like that. Now I was getting bored. My parents weren't, though. "How do you like your new school, son?" my father asked. "It's okay," I said. "Have you made any new friends?" "None of the kids will talk to me." "Well, it's always hard the first day in a new school," my father said. "You'll make friends." "I don't think so," I said. "You'll say none of the children you say that none of the children will talk to you," said my mother. "Have you tried talking to any of them?" I didn't say anything. I didn't know how to tell my mother the snotty kids about the snotty kids at Bat Masterson Junior High were sure to think I was a creep. "To have a friend, be a friend," my mother said. "You just walk up to the other children and say, 'Hi, my name is Leonard Nebel,' and you'll see how quickly you'll get to know some very nice people." I could just imagine how that would go over. "Now promise me you'll do that, Leonard," my mother said. "I don't want you to develop any complexes. You had lots of friends in the old neighborhood."